Dory 1, this is Fire Team Delta. Dad's coming home.
Welcome to the Military Veteran Dad Podcast, where it is our mission to bring every dad home. I am your host, Ben Killoy. I'm a United States Marine veteran, husband, and a father. We will bring authentic conversations to inspire action in your life so we can close the gap between the dad you are today and the dad you want to be tomorrow. This is the Military Veteran Dad Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Fatherhood Friday. Guys, we are on the other side of episode 100. We are on the other side on our way to episode 200. The reviews that I got on episode 100 was exactly what I wanted it to be. It hit people right where they needed it, and they needed that wisdom that Bobby gave us. So thank you for getting me that feedback because, again, it fuels my heart. And I continue to show an immense amount of gratitude because you guys keep showing up. It's the reason why we just passed 20,000 downloads. This podcast is on its way to hit into the places where fatherhood really matters and helping people really reconnect, become better dads. So I appreciate you. I appreciate every time you tell someone about the podcast. All of that helps. All of those things are adding up, and I can't tell you how exciting the future looks for the Military Veteran Dad Podcast. But today, I want to talk about change. So for me, change is something that just happened in a really big way. And you could be thinking, wow, what kind of change would really hit Ben? There's a lot of things that are already hitting Ben. Well, a lot of change continues to hit Ben. So this past week, our world kind of got changed up a little bit. The coronavirus decided to take another twist and fate towards us, and our school district just decided to close down. And so from November 30th to January 15th, our school will be virtual again. And for the last 2 months, I've loved everything about my schedule. I play with my daughter in the morning. She's at preschool in the afternoon. I get alone time in the afternoon to work on the podcast and other things. And I've really fell in love with that idea and this routine. And I find a lot of this year is about I fall in love with the routine. I really get excited about it. And poof, something happens and I need to rewire it again. And that feeling was very apparent last night when we got the news that the school board was voting to go virtual. And for me, it's been something that I've had to really dig deep on because I'm a creature of habit. I want the consistency. I want to be able to, this feeling of in control that we haven't had through COVID-19. And for me, this word of change has been something that I've really had to grow through. I've really had to dig deep into the perspective to get me where I needed to go. And there was a feeling this past weekend that hit me, even before I knew that we were going virtual, that my wife's world was changing because her classroom went virtual. And I couldn't help but feel that I had been training for this moment all year. And that I wasn't actually nervous as I was in March when everything hit. I was so much more mentally prepared. Like, I've been doing this. Why do I think I can't handle it? And I kind of almost went into the military mode of, you got this. You can do it because literally you've been training to juggle more and more every day of 2020. Every day 2020 asks you to figure out a little bit more, figure out how to make more money, figure out how to be more virtual dad, be more how to be a teacher, how to help my kids through the emotions of being frustrated that they can't go to school. These are super, super big things to tackle. But I've continued to rise up to the challenge, and every day I continue to keep that growth mindset in the back of my head that every day is happening for me, and I'm going to try new things every day. Like, I know when virtual happens, I'm going to have to reinvent myself a little bit because we're going to have to try a couple different things with the schedule, the routine, what works, how do I keep things going, and I'm going to have to reiterate that process. That's something that a lot of dads, I don't think we really bring that idea from work into the home, that at work, if a process doesn't work, you keep reiterating it till it gets right. Think of the same concept at home, that a lot of the change I'm about ready to go through is going to be a big, giant iteration process, and I'm not going to have the exact answer on day one. But like all of 2020, I've continued to iterate through each day, figure out what works, figure out how I can still maintain my own power within that and not get into the mode of I'm not enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not emotionally tough enough, I'm not emotionally capable enough to lead my family through that. I've had that feeling a couple times this week, and it's not a good feeling. So for me, reiterating and getting my mind in the right spot to be able to feel the right thing, to understand the right perspective, but continue to understand. I was reminded of some of my own advice this past week doing a podcast interview that pressure is something that creates growth. And I think I've said it probably 100 times in the podcast that the only difference between carbon and the diamond is the pressure that's pushed on that piece of carbon. And every time the change continues, like, God, I just want my routine back. I just want my afternoon walk that I used to do with my daughter after dropping her off, and being able to just have that kind of 3 hours of alone time where I could just recharge. I was like, God, I'm going to just want that back. But like I talked about last week, the seasons are changing. And now with 2020, I feel like the seasons have changed. We've gone through 8 seasons of life instead of just a normal 4 as we would through a normal calendar year. But again, change creates opportunity for growth. And that's what I'm reminding myself of as I go into this next phase, because from November 30th to January 15th, it's going to be all on me because my wife is going to be still in person. So it's going to be on me to lead my family, to lead them as a father, a teacher, lead myself through these difficult times. Like, how do I continue to make sure that I have the energy and I'm centered enough to lead them through without getting into that point where my mind is going into the weakness that you're not capable of doing this. You should really just go out there and get a job, Ben. Go back to normal. Stop trying to do all these crazy things. Like that thought, when it pops in my head, I always try to reach back, pull my hand back, and punch it in the face, because that thought is what pulls me out of my power to be able to lead my family through where we need to go. So to wrap this message up, life is going to continue to hit you with change, as it does with me. Continue to find the good in the change. Continue to find the opportunity for growth in the change. And really, this was something that hit me really big, like I said, this past weekend, was I had been preparing for this more than just this year. Like the last 3 or 4 years are leading up to almost this month and a half test of putting all my skills together. There was another dad that I was talking to a couple weeks ago, and he was going through this crazy, beautiful moment with his 14-year-old son, and how he handled it was beautiful. And I reminded him, I'm like, that moment right there was 5 years in the making, because you had to grow for 5 years to really get that mindset to be able to lead your 14-year-old through that mode. And that was something that we don't often honor, like how much growth had to happen for us to get where we were at. And that growth has created us and made us more prepared for what's about ready to come into our life. So to wrap it up, remember, change is going to happen. How can you grow through it, like everything that 2020 has given us? How has this helped you see a clearer vision of your life in 2020? How has it given you 2020 vision on your life, looking forward and backwards? And understand that growth and the change comes from that pressure. And the more the pressure that you can have applied to your life, the more growth and exponential growth that you can achieve on the other side of whatever you are about to go through. So guys, I hope that you have an amazing weekend. As always, do something epic. I've been really trying to find as many adventures and rewiring some of my classic adventures on the weekends to get my kids out of the house, to get myself out of the house. We've just invented something called scooter adventures, since bike riding is a little bit too cold in Wisconsin in November, but riding a scooter seems to be working pretty good. And so scooter adventures are something that we've been getting into on the weekend. So whatever it is for you, find it, love it, do it more often, and get recentered and love being a dad. And I will talk to you guys again on Monday.